Yeah, that's like the funny thing about a rematch, especially when the first fight was in such dominant fashion. Like the general rule of thumb in combat sports is don't take a rematch unless you think you can do better than the first fight. That's like the general thumb of rule matches. So it's like rematches. So if you knock the guy out in the fashion that Israel did, like dropping him in the first round, finishing him in the second round, like how do you do better than that? Like that's now your starting point. That is now what people are expecting from this performance. They're expecting you to do better than the last performance. So anything less than that is going to like welcomes people to be like hypercritical of your performance. And of course, like Rob's made some improvements. Rob has the ability coming into the rematches that he can make adjustments, which he did. Um, yeah, it looked like a bit of a sinking ship in that first round, like getting dropped with the straight left from Southpaw. Uh, Israel kind of had his timing, but then Rob came back and made some pretty incredible adjustments, mainly with the jab, doubling up the jab, tripling up the jab, which enabled him to close the distance and get in those hips. But like how a fight is scored, if you actually go back and watch, like yeah, if the striking is close or one like it's very close and it's hard to peg, and one guy gets a takedown, well then you would lean it towards that. But if a fight like how a fight is scored is that, and if you understand that, is that let's say 3 minutes is spent striking and then 2 minutes is spent grappling, then whoever was winning wherever the fight is spent the most. So if
Mhm.
it's 3 minutes is spent on the ground and 2 minutes is spent striking, well then it's whoever won the 3 minutes of grappling. If 3 minutes is spent striking and 2 minutes is spent grappling, well it's whoever won the striking. And if you look at the fight, a majority of the fight was being controlled by Israel in the striking component. So yes, he had great success with the takedowns. I thought his timing on the takedowns in this fight was incredible. I think that they had done some very good research into the timing at which and the execution of that I felt was incredible. But then again, uh, a majority of the fight was dominated by the striking, and that's hard to argue. But incredible performance from both the guys.
Yeah, it was, and going back to Rob's takedowns, right? Like he did a great job, man. I'm pretty sure if he does go into a third fight with him, that's something that they're gonna look into more. You know, what I mean, timing those better. But I feel like he was hindered by those leg kicks, man, a lot. Like he might have had more success with the takedown if his leg wasn't compromised. I feel like his leg was compromised. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, like it's funny that Israel's leg kicks, like you'll just see him like tap them out there, and I guess people just assume he's like trying to score points with those kind of low kicks, like he just touch, but like he's got like a heavy low kick. This is a guy with like 100 kickboxing fights. Like
Mhm.
he's not throwing leg kicks just to score points. He's got like it's like a trickily sharp shin. Carlos Ulberg's the same. Like even though his leg kicks aren't like they don't look super powerful, or like he's driving them right through the thigh, like touch, touch, touch. He has like a ridiculously like heavy, sharp kick. So even though they are just touching, and you might assume that they're scoring, definitely they're definitely doing doing damage. And I felt like the damage was done like very early in that fight, which slowed him down.
What did you think of Joe Rogan texting John Anik in the middle of the fight saying that he thought Izzy broke his hand, which was I don't know. Is Joe Rogan obsessed with injuries? Because he's always like, he's hurt, he's hurt. That's why I don't listen to the US broadcast, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a real hard thing to gauge, like how someone's hurt, and then they ask Israel stay after, and he's just like, "What? Nah, like I was just doing my thing with my hand, which is more of like a habitual thing than anything else." So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny when he's always doing that. Oh, 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 yeah, starts screaming like he's hurt, but like that's how Joe, I guess appeals to like most people is that he adds like a level of excitement to the sport by throwing that thing out there. You say, "Oh, he's hurt, he's injured," like it adds a level to like a depth of excitement, which Yeah, it's not there if you kind of ignore it. So
Mhm.
it's I can understand it for sure.
And Israel does a lot of switching of stance, right? And you sparred him so many times. It's like countless hours of sparring with him, switching stances. How difficult is it to adjust to that? You know what I mean? Like a guy, because a lot of people talk about preparing for southpaws, but preparing for a guy that can strike from both stances, that must be a difficult task.
That's like our it's like our striking coach, Twist, who's in the corner,
Mhm.
Tristram. Um, yeah, he's like a perfectionist. He expects, like, if you train with Twist, he insists on both stances. You have to be able to operate from both stances, and you have to be able to execute everything like perfectly from both stances. Like he's an incredible coach. There, he expects perfection from everything. So everything that you could possibly execute orthodox, he expects you to execute everything southpaw. So it's just Izzy's been working with him for like an incredibly long period of time. So just Israel's depth of understanding from operating from both stances is just something he's been doing for a decade, whereas a lot of fighters switch stances and then they throw you like one or two things from that stance and switch back. It's like Israel can operate from both stances in the exact same fashion, which I struggle to think of another fighter that can do that.
When you are on Israel's back, and trying to choke him out, right? Like, how good is his defense? Because he showed, when Rob did get his back, that he can get out of that position pretty quickly, right? It wasn't like he struggled there. I mean, Rob did have his arm like across the chin, but Israel popped out real quick, man. His defense is looking real good.
Yeah, I wasn't too worried. Like we've spent a lot of time in the last few weeks. I want to say 3 4 weeks of like back defense. Like that's something we've like really honed in on. So for like the last couple of weeks, just getting reps in of just having guys on our back and getting those reps in. So that's just I could see now from watching the boys fight that was something that needed to be executed. So yeah, I was quite confident that when even Rob had his back, I feel like he just bellied down and gave his back because he knew that he could get to the cage. And then once Israel's on the cage, he's like very hard to keep there. I feel like Jan did it well by shooting and taking him down out in the open, so far away from the cage that he couldn't scramble to it. But once Israel gets to the cage, like he's all but out, and he kind of showed that in this fight for sure.
Cannonier has had the interest of Israel for a while, it seems like, because Israel was talking about Cannonier like way back, like maybe last year, beginning of last year, and then Cannonier lost. He lost to Rob,
Mm.
and then kind of like faltered back. But in this division or in any division, when you're at the top, you're always one win away from becoming a title contender, right? Right at that 5 to 10 range. You know what I mean? So yeah, Cannonier seems like he earned it. Yeah, he went out there, called Data White, like, Data White, motherfucker, like, it's
That's
me.
how you get it done. Like that's how you get the job done because now that soundbite travels everywhere and everyone watching the show to watch Israel in the main event goes, "Oh, this guy had an impressive performance," and he said his name. Like this guy's next. So yeah, like as far as I'm concerned, that fight makes the most sense for the next title show, without a doubt.
Whittaker in the post-fight press conference, he felt like he won this fight, right? He felt like he did perform better. That's without a doubt. Everybody will agree with that. He said he won this fight. He felt like he won it. He felt like he landed more. And of course you feel this way because you're a fighter. He lost though. You know what I mean? So that's two against Izzy. Where does he go from here? I've seen suggestions of him like going back to welterweight and going, running at that title maybe because right now the science of weight cutting is much better than it was when he fought at welterweight before. What do you think of that?
Um, nah, I feel like he's only like 1 or 2 wins away from after a performance like that. Even though I don't think he won, I feel like it was like showed much improvement and would definitely give people a lot of confidence in seeing a third fight. Does he win another couple of fights and get back in the mix without a doubt? Going back to welterweight, like Rob's a big guy. Like Rob is big. I've seen him on the scales at welterweight at like 105 kilos. So like what's that like 210? Like he's
Yeah.
a big guy. Like that's like a he's a heavy set boy. I don't think he can I don't think that's the right move for him. And I don't think he is even interested in that kind of move. I feel like now that he's kind of tasted some form of success against Israel, you'll see, I think you'll see nothing but a more confident Rob moving into the future after that.
Thank you guys for watching the video to the end. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button and the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. We got a lot of things in the works, so please stay tuned.